Episode 42, the Photime Podcast, looking forward to 2016.
MTCRadio.com presents Photime, the other ham radio podcast. Found online at PhotimePodcast.com. Now, here's your host, Cale Nelson, K4CDN.
Yeah, welcome into episode number 42 of the Photime Podcast. I'm Cale, K4CDN. Happy New Year. This show coming up is a little different. It's interesting. I just want to leave it at interesting as three friends discuss what we're doing in the future. The future being this new year, 2016, regarding the amateur radio hobby. We hear from some listeners as well as our normal guests, George and Jeremy. And there's even an odd break in the program. I don't want to spoil it for you yet, but it's there. It's weather related. This last couple of weeks following Christmas has been very odd throughout the U.S. with the weather and whatnot. So we'll be talking about that. We're going to be talking about some show topics. We're going to be talking about what we personally look forward to doing this year regarding the hobby as we get closer to 2016. Appreciate you all listening to the Photime Podcast. Now, this podcast has been labeled by me as one that's for the new guy, but I'm told numerous times every episode we release that this stuff just isn't for the new guy. So if you've been around a while, or you're looking to get into the hobby, or you're brand new in the hobby, either way, we welcome you in here and believe that we've got something of value for you. This is our 42nd show. You can go back and listen to all of our shows listed on our website, PhotimePodcast.com. Now, we are sponsored by a phenomenal group of folks down in Paris, Texas, Richard, Christine, Lenore, and their group of guys and gals there in the store who do a tremendous job to get to you the best deals and the best quality products available in ham radio. So if you need any gear, you need to make sure you check out mtcradio.com and let them know that you heard about them on the Photime Podcast. This portion of the Photime Podcast is brought to you by the ICOM IC7100 HF plus 6 meters, 2 meters, and 440 transceiver. The IC7100 features an industry-first intuitive touchscreen. Up to 100 watts out on all the bands makes operating fun and easy. The factory DSP enhances your experience, and D-Star voice and data can take you around the world even when the bands are not cooperating. You can find the ICOM IC7100 at mtcradio.com today.
This is Chuck, Kilo Delta 2 Echo India Bravo. This year I'd like to upgrade from General to Extra and also learn CW. I've already signed up for the CW Academy, so hopefully that makes it easy. Have a good Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, so Christmas is here and gone. Very weird weather around
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, so, okay, technically when folks are listening to this, Christmas will have come and gone. I know we've already done, the pre-Christmas show and everything, but I want to be real for a second, because we're actually recording this 2 days before Christmas, and I'm sitting here listening to an active Skywarn net here in the Cincinnati area because of the weather being really weird.
Yeah. This is one of the purposes of amateur radio, or what's become one of the purposes of. We've had a deluge here in the upstate today, and last night it rained like it hadn't rained, I don't know, in months, and it has. We're just saturated still. This is some of the weirdest weather I've seen around a holiday, around the Christmas holiday, the New Year's holiday, maybe in recent history that I can remember thinking about weather.
Yeah.
And
no, I mean,
what scares me is that it's already wintertime, it's not cold yet, so what does that mean for the cold weather coming?
Yeah, I mean, what's really sad, well, actually, I don't know. Our heating bill is going to be less for December, that's for sure, but I mean, it's 63 degrees right now at, 7:34 p.m. on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
No, sorry, 65. It's 65 degrees, and it's going to be for like the next 3 days.
And it's dark outside, and it's hot. I mean, I've had a short sleeve shirt on all day long, one of the fishing type shirts, not that I fish, but that kind where the back helps, it breathes and you're not... Anyway, it's been just really weird weather, and they blame it on El Nino, I guess. But according to the almanac, February is supposed to be very cold. So maybe we got a couple of months to warm up to that. I don't have any idea. But welcome.
Now, what does this all have to do with amateur radio? Well, we just simulated 90% of QSOs you're going to hear on the air by talking about weather.
Yeah, and I'll see you at the Golden Corral later. Yeah, if really, I mean, you laugh in jest, but as I was coming in to record the program, I just ID'd on the local repeater, and a guy came in, and what did we talk about? We talked about the rain. We're neighbors, and we talked about all the rain we got. So, yeah, that's got a lot to do with amateur radio, the weather, and food.
And food.
Yeah.
And maladies.
Yeah. Don't even get us started.
Which my foot hurts.
I'm in good shape, man. I have been. I've been good this year, so I'm not going to complain about a thing. But we are not just here to talk about the weather or Golden Corral, because we had the boys from the Noise Blankers. Did you enjoy the Noise Blankers show, by the way?
Yeah, that was
fun. Those guys are great.
It was a nice change of events. I wasn't. We talked about it beforehand, and I didn't at all know what to expect going into it. And I walked away, nodding my head, really enjoying that show. Excellent.
Well, those guys are a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun, and they've put up a bunch of. They always put up a bunch of fun stuff on their Twitter page, so that's always cool. But not to get too far away from what we're here for, and this is going to be our New Year's special show. We're missing George. And maybe George will drop in later to say hey before we finish this up. But, thanks again for being here. Jeremy, I remember the phone call that you and I had when all this kind of got started. And we really kind of laughed about this lasting 4 or 5 shows. And here we are going into our second year. We're headed into a second year.
Yeah, and being listened to by more than just our closest personal friends on the internet and our moms.
Yeah, well, my mom doesn't listen, but we have thousands of people around the world listening from countries from all over the place. It's really ridiculous what this show's become, and it couldn't have done what it's done without having the great listeners that we do. So, folks, thank you again for coming in. I know we both appreciate you being here, checking us out and spending some time with us. There's a lot of ways you could spend your time, but we thank you for taking the time to hang out with us here. New Year's show. Everybody makes resolutions. I need to lose some weight. I need to begin exercising. I'm not making any resolutions. That's just another way for me to discourage myself. But looking forward to what's happening in amateur radio in 2016. It's something to look forward to. So we want to talk a little bit about that from our personal perspective. And Jeremy, you're in a new house, a new town. You've been there maybe 6 months or so, but you got a new kid in the house. Congratulations.
Yep.
And your life is changing. Your life has changed a lot in this last 12 months. What do you look forward to regarding the hobby coming up in the next 12 months for 2016?
You bring up a really good point. I mean, this year for me and my family has been a lot about change, and a lot of positive change, getting closer to family, having a much better work-life balance. Have been able to actually, it's kind of funny. I had to step on the scale for like the work insurance checkup recently, and found that I'd lost a pretty good amount of weight, and I hadn't even tried. It's just there's so much less stress in my life now. What's really funny about that, Cale, and looking back at the year with a couple of exceptions, I was not a good amateur in 2015. I got an HF like twice. I didn't even get to do field day. And so part of this is my own fault because I've had the opportunity to explore and do other things. Like this year, kind of picked up a little bit of woodworking, got into 3D printing, and have had a chance to explore some of these other things. Part of it is the fact that I still need someone to bring me over like one of those antenna launchers to help me get a wire up in the trees behind my house, which is a poor excuse. But so going into 2016, making an effort to actually get back on the air and to work more than VHF, UHF is definitely on that list.
I can appreciate that. I sincerely can. I went not too long ago, the 10-meter contest. Actually set my clock and got up early to get on the air. And I've been licensed for a few years. That's the first time I've ever got up on purpose early to get on the air. And I made a couple of contacts. It wasn't anything spectacular. And I had other things to do during the day, so I had to stop, of course. But like you, I mean, a large majority of my amateur hobby time this year has been on this podcast and, creating the shows, getting the guests together, doing the production, chatting with you and George and trying to work things out so that we could, have our guest on the show. That's really where a lot of my hobby time's gone. And I'm not complaining, just being straight that's just that and having the shack up out of my house, that makes it really tough. And I'm finding every day that having it away, that I have to leave the innards of my house and walk up the yard into the barn, that puts me at a great disadvantage. And I'm going to try to do some solving to that this year. Maybe bring my portable box in the house and have it there so if I get a chance I can operate from the house. So 2016, I look forward to 2016. And, it's just one of those things that life keeps getting in the way.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's funny you make the comment about a lot of the hobby time has been spent putting into the show, because that's the one thing I do feel pretty good about this year is what we've been able to do with FoTime and the ground we've been able to cover. I feel like this year we did a really good job hitting our stride. And what's cool is we, looking forward into 2016, we already have some really cool stuff planned for next year. As far as some episodes, some of it's following up on things that we started talking about, and some of it's some new ground we haven't covered at all. We've had a lot of opportunity to really engage with our listeners and even get to have a little fun giving some stuff away. And it's nice that knowing that next year there's going to be just a little bit more of all of that.
Yeah. Hey, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be new and exciting in 2016 regarding this program and the community therein. I'm excited. Of course, we can't say too much, but well, there has to be some suspense somewhere. We want to keep folks guessing, if you will. But there's a lot that I have planned for the program on the aesthetic side of things, for lack of a better term. But regarding the programs that we've got hoping to have come forth and working on, as we've continued to do. Let's talk about those here just a second. Let's take a break. I want to get this call in, and we'll be right back. This is Cale and Jeremy on the FoTime Podcast.
Hi, this is Jason, K6DGN from Union City, California. In 2016, I'd like to do more work in digital modes like Yaesu System Fusion and D-Star, and I really need to spend more time soldering.
Yeah, back with Jeremy, KF7IJZ. This is Cale, K4CDN, and you are listening to the end of the year, beginning of the year, 2016. Quick shout-out special show for you guys. And we closed just a minute ago before the break. We're going to talk about, we mentioned talking about some upcoming programs. Jeremy, we all kind of have some things lined up. But since you're the guest, I'd like for you to go ahead, if you want to, just toss out some of the ideas, some of the things that you're working on. I know you and George are working on some things together as well. But
yep.
What are some topics you guys looking for 2016?
Well, specifically talking about that, George and his business, Sierra Radio Systems, has a wealth of experience working with microcontrollers and small single-boarded computers, and that's something else that has really exploded in the last couple of years. I'm going to say this. I might upset the same people that I upset by saying that the 857 needed to be a radio of the past. But to me, the Arduino has supplanted the PIC. There's still a ton of amateurs out there who are PIC programmers. But the Arduino really as a community, I think, has far surpassed that. And then, of course, with the Raspberry Pi. And then, we're living in a world now where they're shipping a $5 computer that is more than anybody could have ever imagined. $5 for a computer that's like 1 billion times more powerful than my Commodore 64, right? That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so George and I are going to be doing a show next year to kind of give it a little bit of an overview of the microcontroller world and the single-boarded computers like the BeagleBone Black and the Raspberry Pi, and to kind of talk about how amateurs can use these, both in the expected kind of ways that most people thought about, and then maybe some things they hadn't thought of.
Well, I've still got that one Raspberry Pi, and I've got a lot of plans for multiple Pis. I haven't heard your episode yet to really know what I need to do next.
Well, we haven't written it yet, so you're in good hands. But no, some other things is that the feedback we got from the listening episode, we definitely had a lot of people come back and start asking questions of, why can't the $49 analog scanner listen to the police anymore? And I believe that in doing the ham hijinks piece, you ran into one of those gentlemen was extremely knowledgeable about the scanning hobby.
Yeah, Kevin, can't remember his call, but that's what got him into amateur radio was listening to a scanner.
And so we're going to beg, plead, steal, borrow, cheat, whatever means necessary to try to get him back on to kind of do a good deep dive into the kind of the modern landscape of the scanning hobby.
I think all it would take is a Golden Corral gift card. Maybe a pair of flip-flops.
There you go.
It won't take much.
But we also, one of the things that really was... especially at Dayton this year, one of the things that truly saw an increase in its presence was software-defined radios and receivers, and that's something that that's actually a topic that George has access to some truly amazing people to talk about that. Plus, we have our friend Gerald, who has also become really an amazing resource for software-defined radios, and that's something that we need to follow up with our audience on, and something I think we've talked about trying to do at least 2, if not more, episodes on, because it is such a wide, a wide topic and an emerging topic. There's a lot of content to cover.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just a $25 dongle, and it's not just a $3,700 SDR radio. There's a lot in between those two.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you guys have my permission to take as many shows as you need to break it down like it needs to be done.
Yeah, it's just like I got started with that with a $15 USB dongle that I ordered from Deal Extreme, which when I moved on and got a little bit better receiver, I sent that thing over to you, and you've played with it a little bit.
Yeah, it works. It works great. I haven't shopped Deal Extreme in a while, but yeah, I didn't realize that's where it came from. I've got a couple of those things, and having a computer, thank you, that will run the software it makes it a lot more fun to fool with.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, I know, kind of diving down that rabbit hole just a little bit, but that's actually an area where there have been some other companies come in with some slightly better, little bit higher quality receivers than that little TV dongle. And there's actually some companies that have kind of started selling upgraded versions of that hardware and the transverters and everything needed to get HF. And so that's on the low end of the spectrum. I mean, and then on the high end, every day there's like a new company showing up with radios that have amazing specs.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not even counting all of the wonderful stuff that Tapper is doing.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys are amazing. I'm glad that you're a part of that now.
Yeah, Well, you can be too for $25 a year and an email address.
Well, hey, I got at least one of those.
Actually, speaking of Tapper, that's one of the things I'm really excited about. Of course, we will be doing another Dayton show this year, with the Hamvention. And one of the things that I really look forward to is catching up with Steve of Tapper to kind of see what's happened in the last year. They had their annual convention in Chicago back in October. A lot of really cool stuff there. And I'm really hoping that that's a resource that we can kind of, not to make a pun, but tap for some additional content and bring some folks on the show next year as well.
Absolutely. Now, folks, if you listen in the background, you're going to hear this amazing little creature. His name is Henry.
Can you hear that?
Oh, yes, it's awesome. And I'm not complaining. I almost can't say this, but I will. I kind of miss hearing that sometimes. I know that you're not missing that right now.
I will mail you a key to my house. You can come over whenever you want.
He'll be borrowing your... Is that... Yeah.
There he goes. My wife just gave me a look when I said that, by the way.
No, that's okay. That's too far to drive.
I have to just say for 1 minute, I think we are pretty blessed because all things considered, our new son, Henry, who is at this point like 2.5 weeks old, has actually been a much better infant than my daughter was, because he will actually sleep for like 3 hours a night, like in long periods. And his routine is pretty much getting down. Like he doesn't seem to be a colicky baby.
Nice.
So, the next 2 months we just kind of have to go through this eat, sleep, poop thing.
Yeah.
And his personality will start to emerge, and that's when the real fun will start.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then before long, you'll be sharing shoes and wondering what happened to the last 12 years.
I wonder about, not 12 years, but I wonder about that with my daughter. Every day is a gift.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that was speaking of rabbit hole, but that was a good one. We congratulate you and the family there. We're excited for you. You've only got 3 more to go. You catch up.
I'm pretty sure that between me and the hedge trimmers in the garage, this is it. I'm willing to go the cheap route on that. Two and done. One of my coworkers, I'm not really a sports guy, but one of my coworkers he was like, 2 kids is good because like in basketball, you're still in man-to-man coverage, but you move beyond that and you have to, transition to zone.
Yeah, it's a trip for sure. Well, just to run back to where we were there any more programs that you were kind of thinking about working on for this next year, or do you hear my list?
We have. I think the last one that really kind of comes to mind immediately is we have to follow up on the Yaesu System Fusion piece. That's the kind of the other side of the prevalent digital coin. And of course, if we have the opportunity to also do an episode on DMR, I think we would love to do that to get that information out to the listeners.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm getting the vibe that DMR is picking up some more speed, which is kind of cool. And I don't really know what Fusion is doing, especially now that Kenwood has announced that we'll have a Kenwood D-Star rig, I think a handy-talkie, sometime in this year, 2016.
Oh, you know what? I completely forgot about that. But yeah, you're right.
How about that?
That would be a game changer, especially if it has APRS in it. Like, no, that's huge news.
Yeah, that's bigger news than the Kinect systems that still hasn't arrived that will do everything. So, I'm looking forward to those shows as well. I almost bought a DMR radio, but then I decided I didn't need one. But some of the things that I'm looking forward to this year is Thomas David Hood, who writes for a couple of different magazines regarding solar and the sun and how it affects what we do, not podcasting, but amateur hobby. He's going to come on. And I'm still working with Andrew from AMSAT to bring him on to talk about what all they're doing in the satellite world of amateur radio. I had a request earlier this week from a listener who would like for us to do at least one program on FL Digi. And that was a can of worms that I think would be fun to do.
That's such a great topic. I can't actually believe that we haven't covered that already.
Yeah, I mean, how many digital modes are they? Besides CW. So that was a tremendously awesome suggestion. There is a YouTube video that's like a primer, or some people would say primer, a primer on FL Digi, and I'll put it in the show notes because it's about a 20 or 30-minute show. It's a really, really good program, breaks it down. But I would like to see us address this, and I'll have to go dig around a little bit. But there is I believe there's an Aries group in Oklahoma who does on-site FL Digi training. And I'll have to find, I knew where this link was. They even did it online, like a webinar back in the spring to summer last year. So I'll dig around and see if I can find that link again. Maybe we can get those folks to come on and chat with us about using FL Digi that way.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. There's another topic here, 220, the 220 megahertz band. There's a whole group of guys up a little bit north of you who are really big into 220, and probably going to bring those guys on and chat with them, as well as a new sponsor. We'll talk about that later regarding some 220 stuff as well. So, there's just the craziest thing about the amateur radio hobby It's just how broad and vast it is. And, coming into the hobby, you don't really realize just how much there is out there to do or to talk about or to learn. It's not just a $30 handy-talkie from Amazon and your buddies across town. I mean, you can take that $30 handy-talkie and use your laptop, and the sky's the limit. We got a call coming in. We're going to pause. We'll be back in just a few minutes. This is Kel and Jeremy on Photime.
Hey, Kel, and everybody else on the Photime podcast, all y'all listeners out there and everything. This is Curtis, K5CLM. I wanted to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. My plans for 2016, as far as ham radio goes, is one, get my station at home set back up. We should be moving here in about a month, and I'll actually have a space for it. I'm so excited. Secondly, I plan on continuing with my blog at everythinghamradio.com, and hopefully launching my podcast. Let's see. Don't think of anything else as far as ham radio goes, anyways. Sorry about the background noise at the park with my two daughters. So with that, I will sign off. 73 to all y'all. This is K5CLM.
This portion of the Photime podcast is brought to you by Kenwood USA's TS480. It's an HF and 6-meter transceiver with a built-in tuner. It also works all modes at 100 watts. Tailor-made for DXing, the TS480 transceiver raises the bar on portable ops, and it's on sale now at mtcradio.com. Back on the Photime podcast, the phone was ringing, and it was our buddy, George. I'm not going to try to say it. George, say your last name for the group here.
Zafiropoulos. Perfect. You got it, Keel. It's awesome.
I've got it recorded. I'm just going to play that from now on. Zafiropoulos.
Put that on a hotkey, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So George, welcome to the New Year's show. We've been chatting about what we're looking forward to talking about on the podcast coming up in 2016. Jeremy went through his list. I was going through mine and pretty much just got mine out of the way as your call was coming in, which is fine. But tell us, we know that there's some things we probably left off our list. What are some stuff that you would like to see us do programs on this year?
Well, there's a couple things that I've been working on that I think might be interesting to the listeners. One of the things I want to do in 2016 is to do a lot more field operating, more portable operating. And I've been wanting to do some SOTA activations, and I have not done that yet. So I think SOTA would be a good topic. Or frankly, just the same skill set, just generally applied to getting your portable HF or VHF gear together and taking it on the trail or taking it to the park.
That'd be a good one.
I think there's some great stuff, Jeremy, that you did on batteries and solar charging and charge controllers, and all that is kind of part of that. I think looking at the gear, which kind of radios, what are the trade-offs? I'm going through this question in my own head right now about which is the best radio to take on the trail, and I'm going through this big circular discussion in my own head about smaller is better, but wait, I need more power. If I need more power, I need a bigger battery. If I need a bigger battery, and also I need a bigger antenna tuner, and then, well, that's too heavy, then I'll go back to something smaller, and there's no perfect answer there. So there's just lots of things to look at.
You just need a Sherpa.
That would solve the problem.
or goats, as WG0AT has.
Yeah, the goats work.
I could take my dog.
Yeah, or your son. Make your son go.
It'd be easier to take the dog.
Since we've been talking about kids here, George. Yeah, welcome in, man. That sounds like a great couple of shows. You missed this a second ago, but I got a request earlier this week from a listener who asked us to do a show on FL Digi, the program for digital operating modes.
Yeah, actually, FLDG is a great piece of software, and there was a really good interview on Eric Guth's podcast where he does the interview of a specific person about their ham radio story, and he interviewed the fellow whose name I forget, who is the guy who is in charge of the FLDigi development.
Nice.
Process. There's like 20 people that work on it, but he's sort of the main guy. And it was a fascinating interview, a really great guy. And so that's a great topic.
Eric does a great show. I must have missed that
He
one,
does.
but I enjoy his program. Fantastic.
Yeah,
As
he
do
does
I.
a really good job.
You know, actually, to jump in real quick, that's something else too that I think we should try to really make a concerted effort on is get the Linux and the Ham Shack folks on and have them give, as you said earlier, a primer on how can hams leverage, Linux in their Ham Shacks these days.
Well, to hear Gerald, hear Gerald's opinion. If you run anything but Linux in the Ham Shack, you're like a bad name that I won't say on the air.
Well, there's sort of two subcultures in that discussion too. There's Linux, which is the Windows Mac OS replacement. Parenthetically, Mac OS is really Linux, but that's that's an aside.
It's BSD.
Well, okay, close. Same general thing, but there's also Linux for embedded, and I know we talked about the embedded controller kind of applications, which is a whole different world of Linux, command line oriented. It's more process control, little black box functionality, like my Raspberry Pi for my D-Star hotspot. Perfect example.
Yeah.
It's just a little appliance and does a task.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've talked about getting the folks from the show there on with us, and we just haven't. But I know they're super
they're
busy.
good folks.
They make a great show, and really enjoy listening to that one too. I'll just throw this out there. This past year, I contacted every podcast and even some audio video folks that are in amateur radio, and asked them if they would, just want to spill for their show here on our program. And that was actually going to be I'm spilling the beans on the table here. That was going to be the special edition podcast day show. And I got back 2 replies. One was Eric, and one was Gary from is it ARVN? Yeah, I'm Gary. I'm dyslexic, so I messed all that up. Anyway, got Eric from QSO Today, and Gary with his video program back. And of course, right at that very moment, my laptop died, and both of those were just turned into ether. But anyway, to say that, there's a lot of great podcasts out there for folks to listen to regarding the amateur radio hobby, and we've just talked about a couple of them right there. It'd probably be fun to have Eric come on the program. I mean, we haven't had any guests from Israel.
No, he'd be great.
Yeah,
he'd be a good one.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to find out what his experience has been like, because he, I think, grew up in Southern California. So going from California to Israel, radio operating wise, would be pretty different, I would think. And I'd love to understand what he's run into and how easy or difficult, or what he experiences there.
That would be a great show.
Yeah, that would be good.
So, George, we've hinted around it a little bit, but we haven't really said a whole lot yet. We have a new sponsor coming up to the program this year, and we still have our primary sponsor, Main Trading Company, but the new sponsor is BridgeComSystems.com, and they are the folks who are coming into the hobby, bringing their 220 megahertz gear into the hobby here. Right now, they have released a 220 HT that I have here, not with me right now, but I do have. Used it yesterday, got some good signal reports just straight out of the box. And they also do a repeater and some other things too. So, that's something to look forward to in the next year coming up here for the program. And we kind of teased around the fact that we're going to be working on some aesthetics here on the podcast as well.
Are you going to make it a little more professional?
Well, no, it's me.
Hard to imagine that.
I would say we're still going to be involved, so unless we're all getting fired.
I'm firing myself.
I demand a pay increase. Oh, pause a sec. Let's go back to BridgeCom.
Yeah.
I just want to, since you mentioned it, that's great. I met Ron. Ron is the owner of BridgeCom.
Yes. Yeah, I can't pronounce his last name either.
Dayton. It's kind of like Zafiropoulos, but from a different part of the world.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a brother. So anyway, I met him at Dayton. I think it was 2 years ago, year or two ago. Anyway, just started chatting because we make the repeater control systems. They make repeaters. And so, we got something in common. And so we're talking. And I just got to tell you, he's a super nice guy. And he had his son there, and his son was helping him work the booth. I think he was like 10 years old and, helping Dad. It was awesome. So anyway, they're good folks.
Yeah, you missed this earlier, but we're going to do a show about 220, and there's a whole group of guys up north of Jeremy that are really big into 220, and Ron, I think, is trying to bring to light some 220 stuff for the hobby because there's just not a lot out there. They've got a mobile in the works that's supposed to be a really nice, very user-friendly rig for the 220 megahertz band, which would be cool. So it's that's innovation, and we like to attach ourselves to innovation.
Absolutely. The first repeater I ever built was on 220, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
Way back when in Los Angeles, when there were no 2-meter repeater frequencies and no 440 frequencies, and the only band you could realistically put up a repeater on was 220. And at that time, there was a bunch of radios that were manufactured that were going to go into a new CB service that never happened, and it was going to be at 220. This is in the 70s. FCC was thinking about reallocating some of the 220 band to a CB service, which never came about. But anyway, some of these CB radio manufacturers made crystal-controlled mobile radios, and when that didn't happen, they dumped them on the market for about $100. And the thing that was cool about them is their receiver and transmitter boards were separate, so you could split the radio in half and make a repeater out of it. So, for $100, you got your radio, and that was a long time ago, and they were pretty awful radios, but they worked.
Yeah.
For a while.
I've never heard that, Jeremy. Have you? That's a new story.
No, that was new to me.
Yeah. Wow.
While we're talking about 220, we can also dig on UPS for costing us 2 megahertz of bandwidth and never using it.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's kind of what's exciting for me to see this company Bridgecom coming up with some gear to encourage people. I mean, they're selling deals like if you buy a repeater, we'll give you a deal on so many handy talkies or whatever. Trying to encourage people to get clubs to get the repeaters on the air and even get their radios in the club members' hands at a discounted rate. Because we know that if you're not using the spectrum, they're probably going to try to find a way to sell it to someone who may or may not use it. But once it's gone, it's pretty much gone. And that's the neat thing about seeing somebody come in and try to protect it.
I'll put in a plug for 220. I currently don't run any 220 gear or repeaters, but I did for several years. In fact, the 220 repeaters, I think, are still on the air in Los Angeles that we put up. Well, they're probably newer ones. But anyway, the propagation on 220 is really good. And you can imagine it's somewhere between 2 meters and 440 in its behavior. So it's actually a very good band. And a lot of people use that band for sure for repeaters. And they even use it a little bit for linking at the bottom end of the band. That's the stuff that they reallocated away. So I'm not sure if there's any linking happening there anymore, but it's a great band. I mean, it has very good mobile propagation, and I think that especially in a dense, urban setting where there's just no repeater frequencies to be had, 220 is a very viable way to go.
Very good. Well, we're going to be hearing a lot more from them as the year goes. We're going to have Ron come in and do a show with us, so it should be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let's take a break real quick. We'll be back in just a few minutes. You are listening to the 2016 New Year's show here for the Photime Podcast. We now have George along with us, and I'm not going to try to say it, and Jeremy as well. But we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. This is Kel, K4CDN.
This is Nick, KG6SQQ from San Jose, California, and in 2016, I want to go to field day with KK6YGJ.
This is Beta, KK6YGJ from San Jose, California. In 2016, I want to get my equipment. Then I want to go to field day for the first time.
Yeah, back on Photime, George, Kel, Jeremy, and George, coming up in just a couple of weeks, you are going to be celebrating with our friends there at the Baynet Group. One of my favorite things. I generally cook this at least 4 out of the 7 days for breakfast, and that is bacon. And I
had it on pizza tonight. Had it on pizza tonight.
Tell us about the bacon, George.
Well, okay, everybody loves Baycon. Let's start with that. So every year, our radio club, which is called Baynet, BAY-NET, has a meeting. And we've been doing this for about 8 or 9 years, and each year the meeting has gotten bigger and bigger. And this year it's going to be really big, and so much so that we've expanded the program out to a full day. We've got a bunch of great speakers lined up. We've got a vendor actually coming in to show off their stuff, donating some door prizes. And the reason that I thought this would be an interesting topic is that we're going to have a lot of great speakers. And we'll publish the presentation content on the website so the listeners can go download those presentations and check it out. So the event had to have a name. And we thought, well, it's Baynet. It's kind of a convention, very small convention. So what else would you call it but Baycon? So
I'll take it. That's
where we got the name. So if you want to check it out, you could go to the event website. It's got its own website. It's baycon.us. No hyphen. Baycon, BAYCON.us. And you'll see there the registration and all of the speakers. And if anybody is in the area, it's open to everybody. If you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, specifically in Sunnyvale, which is in the middle of Silicon Valley, you're more than welcome to attend. And it's on Saturday, January the 23rd. Starts about 9:30 in the morning and goes till about 5. And we'll have some really great presentations. Let me just run through the list real quick to give you an idea what some of the topics are. So the first one is by David KI6CLA, and his titled presentation is Introduction to 10 Gigahertz X-Band Microwave Rig Building. So that should be pretty exciting. There's a lot of guys in California, Colorado, and other places where there's a lot of hills. And they do 10 gig microwave contesting, where you build your portable rig and take it up to a mountaintop and point it at another mountaintop and try to make a contact. And it's really a load of fun, and it's very popular out here in California. That would be a great topic, by the way, for a show. So that's number one. Number two is Jason K6DGN is doing a presentation on System Fusion and the D4 Mini, which is a USB stick for doing digital modes. Another David KS6ZH Delta.
Hey guys, I'm really sorry, but we're now under a tornado warning. So I'm gonna leave this running, and if you're still here when I get back, great. So 73s. We'll talk to you later.
Godspeed, my friend. Wow.
Let's hope you're still there when we come back.
Yeah, no kidding. We'll be here. Hope you are. Wow. Now, that was real. Okay.
Yeah, we don't have those out here. We just have earthquakes.
We just have earthquakes that make big holes in the ground and swallow people. Wow.
Yeah, but we're used to that sort of thing.
Yeah. All right, so George, let's keep. We'll hope for the best, and if Jeremy doesn't make it back in the program due to the warning, before we finish recording, we will update everyone in the show notes with maybe a picture of his beautiful little boy Henry. So, go ahead and tell us about what you've got. What further guests? Because I know that some of the guys. Well, you just tell us who's going to go, because I probably recognize some of their names from here, the show and whatnot.
So David KS6ZH Delta is doing a presentation on HF digital modes like PSK and Olivia, JT65, those sort of things. He's also the sysadmin for our Fusion repeater, and so he's going to be working with Jason on the System Fusion presentation as well. So that should be really good. Dean KK6BIO is doing a presentation on setting up your own ham radio blog, and I know a lot of people would like to do this, but you don't know where to start. And Dean's a professional in the publishing and electronic media area. Actually works for WordPress, so we're going to have a real expert on that topic as well. And then Ed W6ELA is doing a presentation on the Raspberry Pi and APRS and what you could use it for besides position reporting. Barrick K6BEZ is doing a intro to software-defined radios (SDR) for complete beginners, and I'm looking forward to all these. Actually, that one for sure. And lastly is, or almost last, Jim N9JM, who's one of our local microwave contesting experts, is doing a presentation on VHF and microwave contesting and rovering. And then lastly is Peter, KK6VXV, who's doing another SDR presentation, this time about receiving weather satellite data with an SDR. So they're all pretty interesting topics. Kind of a mishmash of VHF, SDR, and a variety of different things. And like I said, Cale, all that stuff will be put up on the website.
Wow!
After the fact. So if you can't make it, you could tune in.
Yeah, and we'll, of course, when that does happen, we'll put all the links on the show site here, as well. Probably be sharing it on Facebook. So I would love to be there in person, but I will do my best to be there in spirit.
Well, we would love for you to be there. Maybe we can figure out a way to get you Skyped in for a few minutes.
I'm all about some bacon.
That'd be awesome.
I literally cook at least a pound of bacon, seriously, 4 out of the 7 days of the week.
My younger son has a T-shirt that says "Bacon is a vegetable." Yeah. In case anybody was wondering.
Yeah, it makes everything good.
Oh, one more shameless Bacon plug. So ICOM is going to show up at our event. I can't believe it. Really? So I got to tell you. So this started out as being like a 2-hour meeting once a year. And we had like 10 people the first time, and then like 15, then 20. We blew out of our meeting facility, and we're going to be meeting at a location in Sunnyvale called the Plug and Play Tech Center. Plug and Play is like a high-tech incubator. It's a really interesting place where little startups can start their business. So they offered to use their facility, so that's very generous of them. And we now have about 95 people registered. I can't believe it, 95.
That's amazing.
This is not like a big convention or anything. This is just our club meeting, but honestly, I'm a little shocked. 95 people, and so we reached out to the folks at ICOM and said, hey, we're pretty active in the D-Star community. Would you guys be interested in participating somehow? And they were very nice. They said, would love to. I'll tell you what, we'll donate a door prize. They're donating a ICOM ID51A Plus.
Wow.
D-Star dual band HT, and they're shipping out a display unit with their radios in it. And Will, who's one of the guys from ICOM, is going to come out and attend our meeting and be there to talk about ICOM gear. And I thought that was pretty awesome. So
that's excellent.
Yeah, and I said, I want to be really clear about this. This is not like a 2,000 people convention. They said, no, that's cool because you guys are like the big D-Star repeater in the area, and we want to support that. And we're happy to come.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah, I was truly, impressed with that.
That'd be a great time to take your recorder and talk to the ICOM folks for the podcast.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Because you'll have so much free time just walking around doing nothing all day.
This thing has gotten bigger, and I put the pinch on my buddies locally to work on different aspects of the event. My goal is to do nothing at the event, and I've learned the art of delegation.
Yeah, you have to on things like that. Yeah, it's required.
Gosh, yeah. Well, and we're really lucky because there's a core of folks in our club that are great. You can ask them to do anything, and they will. They're just wonderful. So we're very, very lucky.
Well, George, tell us again the date for Bacon and the web address one more time.
Saturday, January the 23rd, 9:30 to 5 p.m. And the website is baycon.us. And then there's a separate club website that has all of the other stuff that we do, and that's baynet.org, bay-net.org.
Fantastic. And guys, the invitation's still open there on the Echolink server. and that's available to listeners of the show. So, George, I hadn't told you thank you in a while for that, but we really appreciate you doing that for us.
Oh, of course. No, it's fun. We're happy to do it. I mean, we want people to use the resource.
I'll just ask this question while I've got you on the show. That's your normal repeater there in the area? It's not just an Echolink repeater, right? I mean, it's...
So the answer is a little bit more complicated than I would like. There's the way it's
okay.
currently set up.
Do we need to go to another segment here?
To be set up. Yeah, this is another show. So the short answer is right now that that Echolink server, which is asterisk WW6BAY *, is connected to bridged to an IRLP reflector number 9096. So that Echolink bridge and that IRLP bridge are themselves bridged together. So if you connect by IRLP or Echolink to either of those, you'll be connected to both.
Okay.
And by default, currently, that is not connected to our repeater. So it's really standalone. Okay. And it runs in a data center, a secure, computer environment. It doesn't sit at our repeater site or anything. It's a remote, computer site. Now, the way it's supposed to work is all that, plus there would be a computer on our repeater system that connects to that bridge full time as well. At the moment, that computer's off, but sometime this year, in 2016, that's going to get fixed, and that'll be default on all the time.
Cool. Okay. Well, that makes sense. When you go and there's no activity, that's the reason why. If you're the only one there, You're the only one there.
That's right. And if you but you can connect to our repeater direct if you want to. But right now those two bridges are by themselves.
Okay. Very good. Very good. And we've had some conversations there. I mean, you and I have been on there. Tim's been on there. Andrew. I mean, we've one night I was driving home and you came on and there were, I think, maybe 5 or 6 other people there. We had a nice conversation. So would like to see us continue to use that when we have the opportunity.
Yeah, it's a nice resource. And by the way, this bridging between Echolink and IRLP is not common. That was done as a special favor for us by a fellow named Kent Johnson, W7AOR, and Kent runs the one of the bigger IRLP reflector systems on the IRLP network, and he got his technical experts to implement that bridge function. It's not an out-of-the-box thing. It's something that you have to really be an expert, know how to set up, and they did it for us, and for which we're very grateful. And Kent has been just a super great supporter of our system. He's down in Las Vegas, and doesn't live in our service area, right, if you will, but he's just been a great help to us.
Fantastic. George, it's so funny, completely off topic here, but that's just another fine example of how this entire hobby, it's like we're out there looking for someone we can assist. Do you ever feel that way? Because I feel that way. I'm just taken by people's generosity.
So something, I can't remember who said this, and maybe it was in a conversation we had, but I was talking to somebody who was not a real new ham, but kind of, and their comment was something like, I'm interested in ham radio and woodworking and photography, but nobody offered to loan me a camera, and no one offered to loan me a table saw. But I have people offering me their radios and antennas and power supplies for free to use.
There we go.
And I thought, that's like pretty true.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's not that people are just loaning out $30 handy talkies either. I mean it's an awesome hobby. I am so glad to be a part of it.
Are we still talking?
We are. Are you talking? Congratulations, welcome back.
So let this be a lesson to people. So what happened is there is a tornado warning in our area, but it's not actually in my county. What had happened is my weather radio got unplugged and drained the backup battery, and so the county SAME code was not set to only alert for my county.
I got you.
But I have my daughter here who is quite, it is bad weather out right now. I mean, that tornado warning is only about 10 miles south of us.
Yeah. Well, George and I have we finished up talking about Baycon, and we were talking about the greatness and goodness of the giving hobby we know as amateur radio.
It is a giving hobby.
Yeah. George, are you still there?
Oh, you bet.
Yeah, okay. Well, guys, this is just real, okay? This is real life happening on the Photime podcast. And
it was Photime for me and my family there.
Next time somebody asks what Photime means, we're going to play that spot right there. What does Photime mean? I don't get it. And we're just going to play that. Beep, beep, beep.
So I want to say that I'm really proud of my wife and my daughter for following the emergency plan that we have. Everybody got down to the safe area and did the things they were supposed to do, except for Daddy, who ended up making 4 trips up and down the stairs because I kept forgetting little things.
That's how you've been losing weight, bro.
Yeah, well. We're okay.
So
we're glad
when
you're
you got
okay.
there, did you have to do a nose count to make sure all the kids were there?
So we only have the 2 kids, and then we have 4 furry kids, 2 dogs, 2 cats. The cats, there's no way to get into the basement, but they end up, when it thunders, they hide inside of cabinets anyway, so they're covered. We got the dogs down without incident. I just forgot making sure we had all the proper cables and batteries for our phones, and I forgot the keys to the car. Always make sure your personal effects are with you in the event of an emergency. But I remembered the shoes.
Yeah.
A lot of people go to shelter without shoes, and then you walk around in a disaster area, and that's no fun.
Okay, so here's maybe an idea from a guy who doesn't live in Tornado Alley. How about you go to Home Depot and get a spare set of keys made and hang them in the basement, and maybe get some extra USB cables and stuff to throw down there as well.
Kale, because that would make sense.
That's just that's just your dad talking.
Making sense here in Ohio.
This is a learning moment. You get a pad of paper and write down what flashed through your mind.
Yeah,
that'd be very useful.
Photime. That was. We're glad that you are all okay. We're glad that everything's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, wow, that was maybe one of the most interesting moments we've had in Photime history. So as we go into the second year, our 2016 year, you guys will continue to be a part of the show, a very large part, and I appreciate your help. You guys are indispensable, maybe for nothing else but the Photime podcast. Don't let your wives fool you. But appreciate you guys always coming in and out and back in and having you here. And I'm excited about what we've got ahead of us. I know that we've talked about a lot of different topics. I know there's a lot more of the topics that we've maybe thought about or didn't remember to, during this program. But I'm looking forward to a good year and some good changes coming down the road.
It should be pretty exciting. I think there are some neat things to do to reach beyond the podcast in the same vein. So I think there's some pretty exciting things that may be on the horizon. And it's also been interesting to see the feedback from the listeners about the program and what they like. Mm-hmm. And that kind of helps steer and guide the content in the way we do it. So that's really helpful. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, folks, just a few days ago, I posted, just a week or so ago now, how do you describe the show to a new ham or someone who's never heard the show? A lot of good responses there, and that helped tremendously. And I'll have to just say, if you're on Facebook, we welcome you to come hang out with us in the private Photime group. It is private because we just don't want a bunch of garbage in there. So that's why it's private. And it looks like we probably need to kind of wrap this one up. I know this has been a very atypical program for Photime, but really we've covered a vast amount of subjects. We've lived through a tornado warning. This has been a separation, but I like it, and I'm glad that we took the time to spend time with our listeners here as we walk into 2016.
And I want to say, Cale, thank you really for letting us participate, and you were really so much fun to work with on this, and thank you very much for your friendship and being willing to open this up a bit and let us participate.
Well,
You're here.
Yeah, I appreciate the help, gentlemen, and I couldn't do it without you. And listeners, same for you. If you weren't there listening, there'd be no reason for us here talking. and running up and down the stairs and, So thank you. Thank you all. And we'll be back next time in the new year. And who knows what we'll be talking about. We don't even know yet. But it's going to be great because it always is great. Appreciate y'all being here, and we'll catch you next time.
73.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
This is K6DGN.
KK6YGJ.
W1GQ.
And you're listening to the Photime
Podcast.
Well, there you go. That's our episode number 42 wrapped. Jeremy did survive, thank goodness. Just a close call with a warning. But man, what has happened in Texas over the last few days has been awe-inspiring and heartbreaking at the same time. So we want to remember all of our friends out in the Midwest and the Deep South even that have suffered through some really traumatic storms that aren't supposed to be happening right now. So make sure you guys have your radios ready to go, your batteries charged, and your stuff. Hey, you know what is more important than having your batteries charged is knowing how to use it if you're called upon in a time of need. So maybe you'll take some time off from work here and whatnot as the new year arrives, and we'll spend some time with your gear. It's what I'm going to be doing, quite honestly. Getting to know my gear better. I got a brand new Kenwood Handy Talkie along with a brand new Bridgecom Handy Talkie to be working with. So I'm excited to get both of those running. And just trying to make sure I know exactly what to do in case I'm called upon by the local community here. That's not what everyone wants to do with amateur radio, I understand, but if you do have some stuff, you may be asked to come in and help in the time of recovery like we've seen over the last few days down in Texas, the Deep South, and the Midwest. So anyway, God bless you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Look forward to going into 2016 with you. It's going to be an exciting time. A lot of changes coming to the Photime Podcast, and can't wait to share them with you. But until next time, we'll just have to say 73, y'all. God bless.
Thanks for listening, downloading, and subscribing to Photime, the other ham radio podcast, presented by mtcradio.com. To subscribe, comment, share, or review, visit our show site at photimepodcast.com. Till next time, 73, y'all.